Senator Seselja.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Assistant Minister for Social Services, Senator Fifield. Can the Minister update the Senate on the government's implementation of the Commonwealth Home Support Program, which comes into effect on the 1st of July?
The Assistant Minister for Social Services, Senator Fifield.
Thank you, Mr President, and thank Senator Seselja for his question and his strong work on the Community Affairs Committee of the Senate. Mr President, colleagues may be aware that on the 1st of July the Commonwealth Home Support Program will commence as the entry-level service for aged care services. And for those colleagues who mightn't be as familiar, the Commonwealth Home Support Program will bring together the Commonwealth Home and Community Care Planned Respite from the National Respite and Carers Program, day therapy centres and assistance with care and housing for the aged programs into one streamlined program. Under this program, around 550,000 older people and their carers will continue to be supported with services such as delivered meals, domestic assistance, with support for people with dementia, which is all core business for the CHSP. Providers will benefit from streamlined funding arrangements, less red tape, simplified grant agreements and more time to provide services. And also, older people will benefit from a standardised national assessment process and a single entry point through the My Aged Care Gateway. But importantly, Mr President, the government has announced CHSP funding agreements will be extended to the 30th of June 2018 to coincide with the implementation of the 2015 budget measure to merge the CHSP and home care programs from July 2018 to create an integrated home care program. The funding announcement through to June 2018 will, Mr President, provide 3 years of certainty for CHSP providers, more than $1.6 billion annually in funding. So it's an important change and one that does provide some certainty for providers.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Seselja.
Thank you, Minister.
Supplementary question.
Thank you, Minister. Could you update the Senate on the status of the fees policy for the Commonwealth Home Support Program?
Minister.
Thanks, Mr President. I can. Under changes initiated by the previous government, a national mandatory fees policy for CHSP was proposed to bring greater consistency to the way fee arrangements were nationwide. A CHSP national fees policy consultation paper was circulated in March for industry feedback. And having taken on board community feedback and in light of the planned new home care arrangements from 2018, the government has decided not to proceed with a mandatory CHSP fee schedule from the 1st of July. Instead, I'll look at a fees framework which outlines principles that providers can adopt in setting and implementing their fees, leading to greater consistency and fairness. This will prevent fees from exceeding the cost of the service and ensure that there's a safety net for those who need it. In addition, there will be a national fees guide developed to increase transparency for consumers and providers. But I've particularly taken on board the views of volunteers, Meals on Wheels
Minister. The
and
time
community
for
transport.
the question has expired. Senator Seselja, a final supplementary question.
Thank you. Can the Minister advise the Senate of third-party support for his decision on the Commonwealth Home Support Program?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr President. The changes to the CHSP fees policy has been welcomed by Aged and Community Services Australia, by the Combined Pensioners and Superannuants and the Community Transport Organisation, to name a few. Mr President, the Coalition broadly adopted an essentially bipartisan approach to aged care. When in opposition, we lent our support to the then Labor government and the general thrust of their legislation, but it's peculiar that the current opposition now seek to criticise the government for making a careful policy decision based on widespread sector feedback. It would not be responsible, Mr President, to implement a policy without regard for the considered views and expertise of service providers, of old Australians, and particularly it would not be good to neglect the views of volunteers, for Meals on Wheels providers, for people in community transport organisations. Their views should be listened to, and they have been heard.
The time for answering the question has expired.